Hey, what's up, you guys? I'm Omari Washington. I'm 33. I'm an actor out here in LA. I love everything about it. Um, I've been acting for about 18 years now, so I think I've got my niche down packed, but only time can tell. Let's see what happens.
What do you think people's first impression of you is?
That's a good one. I think people's first impression of me is I'm a nice guy. And that's a narrative I'm working to change at the moment because I've realized how being the nice guy and being too nice can get you screwed over in this town, unfortunately. And I feel like having a tough exterior before you meet someone is good, like tough, like poker face, until you get to know them and you can trust them. And then that's when the warm colors should come out.
So, when you define yourself as a nice guy and you say that that hasn't always served you, define what you think the nice guy is.
The guy who has a hard time saying no, the guy who has a hard time putting on boundaries, the guy who has a hard time putting himself first and not always worried about, uh, the guy who's always worried about other people's thoughts and opinions. And I feel like that can stop growth, that can stop your progress on your journey. It could stop a lot of things. And I'm here to stop that train and put it on the right track.
So, let's take this into the two places you took it. So, you talked about it as it relates to your work and that it's kind of maybe thwarted some opportunities for you. But let's talk about it in your personal life first. So, tell me how being the nice guy, and what sounds like to me is that you were more the guy who's concerned about other people's opinions, afraid of judgment. Is there something that you had happen where you were judged and enough was enough? Or was it just something where you feel like you are so nice that you're becoming people's doormat?
A little bit of both, surprisingly. Before I went to therapy, because I do go to therapy once a week um, due to my traumatic past. So it's hard for me to put boundaries and to not think, oh, what if they don't like me, or what if we have a falling out after this relationship. I feel like the people that know that I'm nice try to get away with a lot more than they would someone that they don't know. And that's kind of messed up to say because the people that know your vulnerabilities, that know your insecurities, I feel like those people are meant to protect you in a sense and be there for you and be your circle to protect you from outside uh, energy. And when you don't have that, it makes you more vulnerable. And for me, I'm trying to figure out how to balance respect with self-respect with setting boundaries and being who I want to be. And that's been a tough juggle, to be honest with you guys.
Well, who do you want to be?
I want to be free. I want to just be myself without having to internalize what I say before I say it in most cases. Because I feel like I overthink a lot, and that could be my downfall. And being 100% with who I am and being happy and confident and comfortable in my skin. Geez, LA is a tough place to like figure out who you are, to be honest.
Well, and that leads us into the second part of what you said about being the nice guy and not having boundaries. How do you feel that that's had implications or played a role in your career, in your work life?
Because there will be instances where someone will do something to me on set or pre-production in a pre-production meeting, and I won't say anything at that moment, but then I'll wait probably a few days until I calm down so I can address the situation right. But I feel like certain situations should be addressed when it happens, and that's been one of my biggest struggles is to address the issues when they happen. For example, I've done a few free projects for a couple of people that I know, and I did it for free, but I felt like the respect wasn't there because I was doing it for free. And it sucks because those people were people that were close to me, and I didn't think that um, not having a price would be detrimental to our relationship, but it is. And I feel like if you set a price for yourself, people will respect you more, and it'll come natural. And also, working with friends is the greatest, um, because a lot of boundaries are crossed and it gets messy. So I prefer to not work with friends.
That makes sense. And you talked about, setting the price and the value, and maybe they think that because you're doing it for nothing, they didn't value it. Not that you don't value what you're doing, but it wasn't valued by them, even though there is a price tag attached to your time. They just weren't respecting that. Is that kind of.
Definitely. I've received more respect from people that I don't know in the industry versus friends.
So let's back up for a minute, because you said that when you were talking about the setting boundaries and seeing the therapist because of trauma in your personal life, do you care to share some of that?
Oh, I'm an open book.
Let's do this.
So growing up, I didn't have the best relationship with my father. He was a very stern guy. He was strict. I didn't have a childhood per se. I had to stay home, watch my brothers all the time, which I didn't mind. Um, my mother passed away when I was about 6, and my father got remarried around that time. And my stepmom wasn't the greatest at first. She was open arms, loving, kissing me, hugging up on me. But after the first year, it got pretty rough. I started to see her true colors, and that love turned into hate, and it started to impact my life in such a negative way where I didn't know how to cope with it. I used to cut my wrists. Um, I used to drink a lot to the point where I would black out, smoke tons of weed, pop pills, and surprisingly, none of those things filled the void in my heart, for my mother. During the times of the beatings, when they first started, I ignored them. I didn't set boundaries. I didn't tell my father. And it was tough for me because I had to internalize. I had to keep that in, because I didn't have a therapist to go to at the time. I didn't know how to cope with it. And once I told my father, he started to abuse me too. So I really didn't know what to do with myself or how I was going to handle all this abuse and all these struggles. But I knew I had to stay strong for my brothers, and that's one of my whys why I do what I do, is for my brothers. Because if I would have taken myself out of the equation, who would they have to protect them? If I would have off myself, who would my brothers have to protect them from my parents? Nobody. So I knew I had to stay strong and endure the storm for my brothers.
How long did that go on?
Ah, man. For a good 15 plus years. Yeah. And that's why I'm reserved. I don't open up to a lot of people right away. I may put on a smile and be all cheesy, but internally, I'm like, can I trust this person? What's this person's intention? Like, all these things go through my head before I meet someone new. And it's quite frightening, to be honest.
Well, that makes perfect sense. I mean, at a young age, you were introduced to the wolf in a sheep's clothing. And how do you judge from then forward if you're meeting another wolf or an actual sheep?
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine what that struggle would be like. I'm so sorry for everything that you went through. How did it end for you? How did this chapter stop?
It stopped. When did it stop? It stopped after I graduated high school. And I moved out, got my own place. Really started to figure out who I wanted to be. And I mean, it still didn't stop after that. I was still getting verbally abused. My father would call me, and he would start off the conversation nice. Hey, how's it been? Oh, any gigs lately? Oh, cause I'm broke. I need money. Like, oh, that's a warm way to talk to your son, that you haven't spoken to in a long time. Um, but I'm proud of myself for something. About 3 years ago, I went to Chicago. I wrote a letter to my stepmom, and I was going to confront her with it face to face, but she wasn't there, so I left it in her room. And it felt good. And I knew I was going to get backlash for it. So, like, a month after I leave Chicago, after dropping off the letter, she calls me. Well, she has my brother call me. She doesn't even approach the situation herself. She has my brother call me, and he's like, "Well, what's up with the letter?" And I told him, This has nothing to do with you, bro. And no disrespect, I would appreciate it if you would just step out the way, because this has nothing to do with you." And he respected that. And then later that day, my father called me, and he's like, "Oh yeah, your mother." I was like, "My mother?" Um, he's like, "Yeah, your mother called and told me about the letter." I was like, "Yeah, all that needed to be said, and you had something to do with it as well. And I'm glad you called, because now I could release my truth to you." So I went on. I told him everything he did to me, and that traumatized me. And he got defensive, and we ended up getting into an argument, and he ended up cursing me out and wishing the worst upon my life. And that was the end of that call. And I haven't spoken to them since. And it's been about a year or two. Yeah.
Wow. But you said that you were proud of yourself for doing that. I'm proud of you for doing that. And like you said, speaking your truth and coming to terms and putting it on paper and saying what happened so that you could work through and move past it. How did you feel about that?
I felt like that was the first step of figuring out who I was. The first step to my freedom. Now I'm free. I mean, there's other ways that I'm still in a prison per se, trying to work on because of my trauma. But right now I'm free. Like, I don't have to worry about what they're gonna think if my acting career isn't flourishing the way they think it should be. I'm cool. I'm at peace.
I can see your smile come through when you talk about the freedom that you felt and what you got from taking that step. And it puts a smile on my face. So you talked about with your parents and their potential expectation or judgment based on this imaginary pace car of where they think your career should be. And I feel like we tend to do that. We tend to measure ourselves off of where we think we should be instead of what our actual goals are. And I was just curious as to what your opinion is and to how you feel about that imaginary pace car and how you set your pace and goals for where you want your career to be, where you want your personal life to be.
I do feel like for my process, the pace car definitely was in front of me in the beginning of my journey when I first moved out here 9 years ago. But now I've taken that pace car out the way and I've set my own pace. Like, because really there is no timeline to this. We as actors have to accept that our breakthrough can happen any day, any possible day. Tomorrow or the day after that or next year, who knows? But until then, we must live in the moment and enjoy the journey. Oh my goodness, I cannot say this enough. Don't stress the no's, because the more no's you get, the bigger the yes will be. For example, Lethal Weapon was my very first big network co-star role out here. And before I got that role, I would always, every day, I would look at my phone. Oh man, what if today is the day? I don't know. Oh, any auditions? And like that adds anxiety. Oh my goodness, the amount of stress that we cause ourselves is ridiculous. And I feel like the more we breathe and trust in God's plan and trust that He will take us to that promised land, no matter how bumpy the journey gets, no matter how many obstacles are in the way, no matter who or what is trying to stop you, it's meant for us instead of against us, if that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. What is something that would surprise people to know about you?
That I have a culinary degree and I love to cook, and I've been professionally cooking for about 11 years now.
Very cool. When are we having dinner? That's amazing. I love food.
Christmas.
We will, heck, you don't have to ask me twice. So yes, I will cook for you on Hanukkah, and you can cook for me on Christmas. That sounds fantastic.
Deal.
Well, that is exciting. That is really neat. So, what's your favorite thing to make?
Ooh. My favorite thing to make is chicken chazor. It's pan roasted chicken braised with the tomato sauce reduction, infused with white wine and minced garlic and minced parsley.
Well, we have been taking up quite a bit of your time, and you have shared some incredible things. Before I close out our conversation and ask you my final question, is there anything else you would like to share?
Yes, definitely. I moved to LA with $1,200 in my bank account. Didn't know where I was going to sleep. Didn't know how I was going to eat. Didn't even know how I wanted to approach my acting career or any of my acting goals. But what I did know is that I was determined. And that's one thing I want people to take away from this, that I'm determined to inspire, to aspire to be the greatest. And I will be, because I believe in myself. And I want you to believe in yourself the way I believe in myself, because I believe in you. You could do it. And don't let the no's discourage you. They're only helping you get closer to the yes.
I love that. And it goes back to what you said about when you came out here, how you set your own pace. And you took that pace car and set it aside, and you basically started driving one of your own. And you are going to create your own destiny, and it's obvious. And you're incredible. So, my last question, which you kind of just answered, so you kind of cheated, but that's okay. My last question, if you're walking down the street, LA, or if you're in a kitchen cooking, and you could hold up a sign that would tell people one thing about you, what would you want them to know?
I'm unstoppable.